think I use 3 to 4.
I use about 4.
I think 6.
3 hours? Probably 3 to 4 hours.
Combined, I would say like more than 3 hours.
Like Facebook, probably like a good 2 hours a day. Snapchat, like on the reg. Instagram, like a good solid 4 hours a day, probably, because it just adds up.
I usually just check Twitter and Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram briefly throughout the day, and then if I'm bored, I'll go on Pinterest for a longer amount of time than I would on all the other ones.
Do you use social media sites on a daily basis, and if so, which ones do you use?
Well, if social media includes texting and email, then definitely. Maybe I text a little bit, but not that much. Just a little bit with my wife, maybe, do you need anything from Target? No Facebook, Twitter, that stuff. And I don't know how much, quite a bit. In the end, probably a couple of hours of processing email a day. And I process it at all times of the day. So, I'll check email at 11 at night. I get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and I check my email, which is crazy because nothing is that urgent in my life.
I use email on a daily basis.
I use email every day. I go on Facebook to kind of just observe what my special needs daughter does with Facebook and how she's using it and what kinds of things that she's posting. I really don't use it as an instrument of communication. For them, I might send an email or I might make a phone call or I'll go and see them in person. But I don't make use of the social media that way. I don't know how to use Twitter. I do know that I have numerous students that want me to connect with them on LinkedIn.
Do you use social media sites in your classes, and if so, which ones?
No, not really. I suppose there's the eLearn site that I basically use to deposit documents, and I'll throw a couple announcements on there, and maybe some links every once in a while, but not that much.
A few years ago, I would have my freshmen email their little response papers, to the whole class on a group email. They had some kind of crazy program that allowed you to post things. Little progress reports or whatever they were would go to the whole class. So I did that for a couple of years. That's all I've done.
I guess if I became more proficient with it, there's an encouragement on the part of the college to have all of the faculty use the learning management system as a way of communicating, using all of their classes, communicating with students, developing other forms of student interaction and participation in coursework, only doing it not necessarily in the classroom, but doing it outside, but connecting with everybody electronically.
Throughout your time teaching at Stonehill, have you seen a change, either an increase or a decrease in students' use of social media?
I don't know what they're doing with their cell phones, right? For all I know, they're, reading something. I've only been here 4 years, but certainly it seems to me here it's very common as soon as people step out of the classroom, they're all kind of on their phones and looking down. Before class, they're on their phones. You definitely have to have a policy about limiting phone access in the classroom because they're going to kind of push it. And I'm assuming that they're texting and interacting with each other in some ways, but certainly their heads are down and in their screens quite a bit.
I've been here for 15 or 16 years now. And when I started, I don't think that all of these things were invented yet. Where in the past people would be chatting before class, now they're on the phone before class.
Well, the change that I find is that everybody carries what you're carrying. What becomes more striking is if I see students actually walking and talking to each other. The fact of the matter is that everybody seems to have an instrument in their hand all the time, and that it becomes the focus of their attention. In a sense, I see a shift in what would appear on one level to be an intrusion of the technology, impacting the kind of social interaction, talking, communication that would be more personal and more face-to-face. So I find that there's very little opportunity to say something, or to even have, if everybody has something to the ear and they're talking or listening.
Do you think social media affects your social life? If so, how?
I think it definitely does. I mean, I find out about a lot of things that are going on through social media. I think it's how I connect with people.
I think it affects the way that people hang out because everyone's always on their phone when they're together.
Social life, yeah, definitely. Social media definitely helps me to connect more people. If that person is not like 10-mile distance around me, social media definitely helps me to connect with people that are like farther away from me. So I would say it helps.
Especially because you FaceTime your family.
Yes, FaceTime.
Do you think social media affects positively or negatively your academics, more specifically the quality and efficiency and the time it takes you to complete your work?
Oh, it's definitely a negative. Because, I mean, like when I'm doing like a paper or something, I'll be checking like Twitter and Insta like every couple of minutes. It's definitely a distraction.
It definitely affects it negatively because it's really distracting, especially if I'm on my computer, like everything's right there. I'm always on my phone, so definitely negative.
Social media doesn't really affect my academic that much, but if I would say the time that takes me to finish my homework, yeah. It takes longer for me to finish my homework if I'm on Facebook.
It definitely affects my overall like grade.
Like really easy to just click into Facebook when you don't feel like doing your homework, but it hasn't really ever really affected my academic life.
It's easier to think that it's going to play a negative role because it distracts them and makes it the case that they're not able to work and concentrate on something difficult for long periods of time without kind of tuning back out. But I have no data to suggest that they're worse at this than it's just sort of a guess. Positively, I suppose there's a way in which you could, I don't know, could you have assignments texted and stuff? I find it a little somewhat distasteful.
Others, I don't know.
That, I'm not sure. I see it as probably an advantage, and most likely would be of an advantage in the future, except for this. It depends on an equality. In other words, are all students equal in the knowledge, the functional literacy of the electronics?
Cyberbullying?
I guess like dating websites, or especially like Tinder, like if people try to meet up, that's pretty dangerous.
Since everyone right now is on social media, there might be like social media related crimes, or maybe I would think since social media is like so popular right now, people may lose the chance of connecting people face on face.
Yeah, I do. There are people who abuse it.
Definitely, I see dangers.
No, I haven't gotten that bad.
Nope.
For me, that doesn't really happen.
I had to give my sister my Facebook password during finals week because I was like over using Facebook.
It hasn't really like been a problem for me.